very much for being with us today, sir. We're going to ask you a few questions to commemorate your 10 years in office, as it were. It's going to be in two sections. The first section is more serious questions about school, about your life. The second section is shorter and it's a quick fire round to finish it off.
Super, thank you.
So, when and why did you decide that you wanted to become a teacher?
Well, I come from a sort of family of teachers, really, and there's always something about that you sort of live and breathe it when you grow up. My mother was a teacher. I had great aunts who were teachers. And in fact, from an early age, I was perhaps taken into schools with them. Then when I was at Cambridge, I really enjoyed the English course I did, and I thought actually I enjoyed sort of talking about that to other people, and thought particularly this is something I'd like to pass on to the next generation, as it were. So it's a kind of combination of say family circumstances and that kind of love of subject, and actually wanting to share that with the next generation. So I suppose it was that inevitable moment you get to the end of university, and my parents quite rightly said, and so how are you going to make your way in the world? And I went to teaching. I did the training, and haven't looked back. Never done anything else.
So you went into teacher training. What attracted you to join New College here?
Well, I don't need to tell you it's a very special school, but first and foremost, I was a choral scholar at Cambridge, and so obviously the music side, the choral side is attractive. The link with the college, which I think gives it another dimension. And actually, the small scale of it, I've worked in large schools up until now, schools of 1,000, 1,200, and I saw this sort of gem of a school, really, with 160 pupils, and it's brilliant. I know everyone, I know parents, I know grandparents where they're involved, and that's really special because I came into teaching to make a difference to children and to connect with children. And actually sometimes if you're in a senior position in a very large school, you sometimes lose touch with the very reason for going into teaching. So there are lots of special features about this school, and it is a gem in this corner of this beautiful city.
So what's the biggest change the school has undergone while you've been here?
That's very interesting. I mean, I think there are lots of things, lots of changes. I mean, you will know all heads make changes gradually and incrementally as they go along. I think the biggest change, really, when I reflect what it was like then and now, is really I think there are many more activities on offer. I think that the way in which teachers share their wider interests with pupils is really perhaps the biggest change in the whole sort of culture of the school. So you will know there are, of course, obviously lots more lunchtime activities, after school activities, and the way in which I think my colleagues share their interests and show that they are kind of rounded people, not just teaching their subject, but actually sharing lots of interests with pupils, has probably been the biggest kind of cultural change, if you like, in school, and one I'm particularly proud of, I think.
What's your favourite aspect of being headmaster here?
Oh gosh, well, favourite duty. Well, there are lots of things I like doing. I think that it still remains, even as head, one of my favourite moments are those sort of light bulb moments, which you can still have as a head when you see the development of pupils, as I say, particularly come in at 4 from into the reception class, and you see pupils grow through the school and really achieve great things, both in their emotional development and in their academic development. I think those are the things that sort of give me the great moments, if you like. There are set pieces that I enjoy doing. I don't mind getting up in public, I don't mind fronting public occasions, all those sorts of things. There's a bit of an actor in me, as all teachers have a bit of actor in them, and so I'm happy to do that. But I think if you said to me, what's the greatest thing about being headmaster, it's seeing those light bulb moments, and importantly as a head, empowering all the teachers in the school to have that similar confidence, if you like, to develop pupils' emotional and academic success, and that's really quite a special thing to do and quite a privilege too.
So what have been your best moments at
Oh gosh, well, lots really. I mean, I love all the sport, the plays, the drama, wonderful things like the opening of the new library. We had no library here before. It's great to see pupils using that. Getting our green flag, the Eco Committee, and that was a marvellous achievement again. And as I say, just really, I think seeing the development of pupils as they've gone along over the years. But I think it is always about those sort of great achievements of say, on the sports field, in drama, in music, and to see those sort of performances and the confidence with which pupils here achieve those sorts of things means that there are lots and lots of great moments along the way. Lots of things I could recall over 10 years.
What's the hardest decision that you've had to make in your role?
That's a very interesting question, and kids, do have to make hard decisions, and in a way, that of course is very much part of the job. I always think the hardest decision I have to make is when, particularly with our Year 3 entry, which is, as you know, a competitive entry, and we have lots of highly intelligent pupils applying, and there are a limited number of places. And I always feel sad, really, when I can't offer more places to talented children, talented boys. And then it's, you have to make a decision between people who are, all pretty intelligent. You have to draw the line somewhere, and then tell them that. And of course, the way in which you tell that is important, because it isn't a failure, as it were, that people haven't got in. It's simply the pressure on places. So it's always a hard decision when you've got lots of bright boys aiming for very few places.
So what do you envisage being the most significant challenge for NCS over the following years?
Without doubt, the need to provide more bursary help for families who otherwise couldn't afford the education here. You will all know, your parents will certainly know, that fees go up over the years, not because we want just to raise the fees, but there are increasing costs in running schools, and lots of pressures that we can't resist in terms of, say, health and safety, legislation, complying with the latest standards. But I think one of the greatest challenges that we face is to provide as much as we possibly can to help boys who would benefit from education here but otherwise couldn't afford it. And that's really going to be my focus over the next few years, and really engage the community in doing what we can to make that education available as widely as possible.
What are you most excited for going forward with the building work?
The building, yes, it is hugely exciting. You've seen all the plans, I'm sure. Well, I think, we're going to have a fantastic theatre. And one of the things I really pushed for in the new theatre was this raped seating. That may sound as if it doesn't sound very exciting, but it means that we can actually, all the audience can look down on the stage, and we'll have a really professional theatre for the very good productions that we put on here. And the other thing, I'm really excited about the new dining hall. I think we all agree that they do a great job here, but it was built in the days actually when I think all the boys were served lunch by waiters and waitresses, and so actually to have a facility where we can move through the self-service, and actually very civilised environments, can have panelling, the acoustics are going to be really good. I think that's hugely exciting too. Eating is an important part of the school day.
So, is there anything that you're going to miss about the buildings that are being demolished?
No. Well, not much. I think the only thing I would say is that building put up, or opened in 1959, was a tremendous post-war effort. The money was raised entirely by parents. It's not the most beautifully built, not the most sturdily built of buildings compared with our new building, like the sports hall and the art rooms and music rooms and so on. But it was a tremendous effort just after the war to get this school having some more modern buildings. And I think you know, we should always remember that. Even when it's demolished, we'll have that legacy. But I won't miss much about the facilities compared with what we're going to have.
To that end, what are your favourite touches that you've added to the design of the new building? So the little things that you pushed for particularly.
Well, I'm particularly pleased that the Year 3 classroom is going to have a sort of balcony, sort of outside area, which is rather fun. Sort of perhaps a little touch that you wouldn't otherwise have. And that actually is going to cover a sort of entrance to the pre-prep. So the pre-prep will have a covered play area, so that gives them a covered play area, and the Year 3 a sort of balcony area. And then we're looking at the moment at some really nice decorative touches, perhaps getting some artefacts over from college, art and artefacts over from college, which link us with the tradition of the college, perhaps some sculptures or carvings or something from the past, paintings that we can put in the entrance halls, because I think it's going to be a really beautiful building, and I know that the governors want the school to show that tangible link with college in the decorative features of the building. But it's a hugely exciting building, as I'm sure you've seen, with its sort of modernist architecture. It's going to be quite something in this part of Oxford.
So moving away from NCS, if you were head of education in Britain, what would you change about the school system or curriculum?
I think what worries me most about our current education system, right across the board, of course, we're talking about the maintained and independent sectors, is that there isn't enough possibility to recognise vocational qualifications. You know what I mean by that. In other words, I think we're strong on academic qualifications, which is great, but we have to be honest that that doesn't suit everyone. And I think for too many years we've undervalued vocational education, and we need to give it a sort of a recognition, which I think will empower more people in this country to feel satisfied and fulfilled about what they're doing at school. Otherwise, those who are not perhaps so gifted academically might feel that that they don't have a role to fulfil, and actually providing better vocational education, I think will be very important. The other thing I would say, and I do feel this very strongly, is that I think teachers have not been given enough credit for the hugely professional job that they do. There has been a culture in successive governments of all sorts of different political hues, a sort of sense that teachers need to be checked up on all the time, that they're not doing a proper job, that we've got to put children through exams to check up on teachers. And I think if we could recover something of the real professionalism of teachers and allow them to be creative and thoughtful and responsive to the different needs of pupils in very different settings across the country, inner city, country, in wealthier areas and less well-off areas, again, give teachers the freedom to respond creatively to pupils, I think every child's education would actually take a jump for the better, and again, teachers would help children fulfil their potential. And I do quite passionately believe that. I think at the moment there's perhaps too much constriction on what teachers can do, but it's a balancing act, of course.
And now for the final question in this section, what things that you do now in school would you wish that you had the opportunity to do when you were in school?
Oh well, gosh. I think I'd have liked to have done more science practicals. I'd like to have been able to use some of this audio-visual kit. What wonderful opportunities you have, and some of that, of course, is the advance of technology. Yeah, I think some of those things, I'm not going to say, oh, you're incredibly lucky, because I think each generation says that. But there are certainly some really exciting things that you do now that weren't available to me, but particularly in those areas, really.
So now we're going to move on to the quickfire section.
What has been one of your most memorable chapel speakers?
Of course, they've all been good. I've got to be very careful what I say here. I'm bound to say the warden, he's my chair of governors. He's very generous with coming to speak quite regularly. But aside from him, I think I certainly remember the chaplain of Wadham College, who was very very engaging for us all. I think the fact that she'd been a primary school teacher in a previous life actually probably helped with that, and just certainly that sticks out in my mind.
Who's your inspirational idol?
Yes. Well, I tell you what, on my phone, I was at the United Nations not so long ago, my wife who was doing some work there, and I took a photograph of something that Malala Yousafzai had said, which is very memorable. I think that's why I think she's somebody I would put down as a very important idol. One child, one teacher, one book and one pen can change the world. And I think she's done that at an extraordinarily young age, and she's somebody who, not just in education, but actually as a human being, as a modern human, a modern young woman, she has changed the way in which we think about the world, and I think that's what all of us should aspire to. So I've got that on my phone, so I think you could probably say that she is somebody who I think should be idolised, or should be certainly looked up to from what she's done, and to inspire other people.
So what's your favourite hymn?
Well now you know, of course, I'm mad on hymns, so that's a really tricky one. I've got to do this quickly, haven't I? I think it's a toss-up between Addison's The Spacious Firmament on High, which I like, is a wonderful tune that goes with that, or in fact a hymn that my wife and I had at our wedding, Christ has made the sure foundation, which of course goes to that wonderful Purcell tune, and also, as you all know, has my favourite word in the last verse, which is consubstantial. Consubstantial. So I think perhaps we'll go with that one.
What's your favourite sort of annual school event?
Yeah, again, they're all very different, aren't they, in different ways. I love the rhythm of the sort of school events. I think probably in the end I plumped for the carol service. I'm a great sucker for Christmas carols, and what is great about that service is that it's the time of year when perhaps families are a little freer to come to it, and it's great that families turn up, extended family, grandparents and so on, parents, and the chapel is absolutely full, and we sing those old favourite Christmas carols. So I'll plump for that.
And finally, what's your favourite school dinner?
School dinner. Well, I'm going to go for something that we don't often have at home, because the school dinners you can cook on a larger scale. I think I'll go for the lasagna, but without the garlic bread. I think I'll keep off the garlic bread because we'll keep an eye on my waistline, and then probably jelly and mandarin segments. How about that?
Anyway, thank you very much. This has been a wonderful interview. I hope people who are watching this or reading this have learned a bit more about you and your attitudes towards the school. We hope you've enjoyed your time here very much so far, and here's to another 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a real privilege to be here for 10 years. I literally mean it's flashed by, and it's great to have people like you in a position of feeling confident to interview, and I'm sure you'll be a great credit to your senior schools too. But as you say, here's to another 10. Thank you.